Welcome to Reliability Matters, a podcast for the electronic assembly industry. Each episode covers topics related to reliability, best practices, and environmentally responsible assembly techniques, with insights from experts across the electronic assembly industry. Now, here's your host, Mike Conrad.
Welcome to this special episode of the Reliability Matters podcast. Just like the famous line from the 1982 film Poltergeist, they're back. SMTA, Surface Mount Technology International, is returning as a live event November 1st through 4th in Minneapolis, Minnesota. With over 90 in-person technical presentations, a large variety of professional development courses, an exciting keynote and special events, and the largest exhibition floor thanks to the co-location with MD&M, this year's SMTA has a lot to offer. To find out more about the return of SMTA as a live event, I assembled a panel to discuss the show. SMTA President Dr. Martin Enzelm will join me to discuss SMTA and the return of live events. SMTA's Executive Director, Tanya Martin, will discuss the exhibition floor and special events at the show. Member of the SMTA Global Board of Directors and Vice President of Technical Programs, Dr. Richard Coyle, will review SMTAI's technical program and professional development courses. And member of the SMTA Global Board of Directors and Vice President of Expos, Greg Vance, and Conference Director, Dr. Rayo Espandar, will share technical presentations that caught their attention and preview the keynote presentation. Let's begin with Dr. Martin Enzelm, President of SMTA. Hey, Martin.
Hi there. How are you, Mike?
Good. Good to see you again. I'm looking forward to seeing you in person. We have a real live in-person meeting coming up in a few days. So I was talking to someone else. It's like bumping into a celebrity, that you've only seen on TV.
Right.
You start getting used to people on a small screen, and then you see that same person in real life, and it's like a wow moment, right? So.
I'm going to feel that way with people that I know as well, I think.
Exactly. Yeah, some of us have only met in the pixel format. So, and speaking of meeting and real live people, we got a lot going on with a couple of live events coming up, which we'll get into in a minute. But before we do that, what's going on over at SMTA?
Well, there's a lot of things going on as we wrap up 2021. It's nice to see that things are slowly coming back to normal. So as you mentioned, we have a couple of in-person conferences happening, as well as in-person expos. I'm locally in the Western New York area. Our Empire chapter is having an expo tomorrow, in fact, in person. So, it's not 100% back to normal. We'll be wearing masks and things of that nature, but at least we'll be able to shake hands with one another and get to see one another and things of that nature. So it's exciting to see us sort of coming out again into the great big wide open world and traveling again a little bit. So that's exciting for me, and I'm sure a lot of other people as well.
Yeah, right up until the shutdown, early last year, I was doing a lot of travel. I'm a bit of a road warrior, and I if someone told me I wouldn't have to get on an airplane one more time the rest of my life, I would probably have a little bit of relief. Now I miss even the terrible flights. I miss the kid kicking my seat, and I miss the the turbulence spilling my drinks and the missed connections and all that. I mean, I pine for those days again. So one
exactly.
benefit of all this,
I agree with you.
Yeah, one benefit of all this is we kind of recalibrate and appreciate things that we just took for granted before. Now, you mentioned that there were, Empire chapters having a live event. There are a lot of SMTA local chapters having their expos and their meetings now back to live, which is exciting. And we talked about there's a couple of events coming up. One of them is the High Reliability Cleaning and Coating Conference, which is happening in just a few days, October 5th through 7th. In Dallas. That is a live event with quite a few speakers and presenters, keynote, things like that. And then we have, of course, the big elephant in the room, in a good way, which is SMTAI, Surface Mount Technology International, which is happening in Minneapolis, Minnesota, November 1st through 4th. Last year, we did a virtual version of the show. This year, we're back to real life. We have over 90 presenters. We have a keynote. We have special events. We have professional development courses. We have exhibitors with real product on a floor and real booths. It's going to be quite exciting. Again, talking about things we took for granted in the past. So this is kind of probably a pointless question because I can predict your answer, but I should ask, how do you feel about the return of live events? Are we ready to go? Have we missed out over the last year? Do you think the virtual events filled some of that gap? What are your thoughts on the return to normalcy?
Yeah, let me start with SMTAI. I mean, in terms of the conference itself, I'm the track director for technical innovations, and we have the most papers that were submitted for that particular track than we've had in years. So we have quite a few sessions in person this year, so I'm really excited about that. And the same holds true for all the other sessions. I feel like last year there was a bit of a holdback. We want to give our papers in person. So I think we were flooded this year with lots of really great papers. Doesn't mean that there isn't going to be a online component to that. Not everyone can travel, and SMTA as an organization understood that early on. Back in February, we gave all the abstract writers the option to either be in person or not. So we'll be recording all the presentations, and they will be available later for people to watch that register for the event. So we're really accommodating whatever any individual companies' travel restrictions are, but the outcome of all of that is that there's been quite a bit of participation. So I'm really excited about the conference, and you'll hear more about that from others later. The expo, very well, attended in terms of registrations for the booth space and things of that nature. Just to touch back on our earlier conversation, the Empire Expo maxed out. We had to turn some companies away for tabletops. So I think absolutely, to your point, people are raring to go and trying to get out. And it's even here at RIT, it's been the case that certain course registrations, I teach an automotive electronics course that goes to Germany every year. I have so many students signing up for that for next year because I think last year they couldn't sign up for it. So now they've been waiting for a year. And I think it's being felt also in the SMTA that people are ready to get out. Now, if there's a particular company that can't go because of policy, we understand that. But I think other companies will more than make up for the difference.
Yeah, that sounds good. And I know you're a professor at RIT, and you have to get back to your students, and you need to eat your lunch. So I'm going to make this the last question, and then we'll release you to the responsibilities of educating our youth.
The swarm of students.
Exactly,
yes.
Exactly. So SMTA is all about providing value to its members. Later in the show, of course, we're going to dive into some of that value by talking about what's going on the trade show floor and the technical conference and some of the other special events. What are some of the additional benefits, maybe the intangibles of a bunch of people from the same industry meeting in one place?
Sure. I think the SMTA has a wonderful community. One of the recurring statements you hear about being a member is the ability to interchange ideas or exchange ideas. And really the intent here is to overcome difficulties that we have in our day-to-day jobs, right? In the manufacturing, test, inspection, design spaces, we have a lot of industry knowledge, and we have a lot of individuals who are more than willing to collaborate and help each other out to overcome challenges. This is not directly, competitive because we may be competitors in the industry, but we're trying to overcome challenges that are the same. So, the community within the SMTA is such a wonderful community, and members that have been members for a long time very quickly transition from someone absorbing the information to individuals that are transmitting that information back because they've gained from it. And that's really what has happened to me as an individual when I was a young engineer, learning the ropes to now where I'm sort of in the middle of my career. And then as I go into the second half of my career, I really look forward to helping those that are in need, as well as still receiving help well into the end of my career. I'm sure I'll always be learning from the individuals at these events. So I keep talking about the culture, but it really truly is a wonderful culture within the SMTA.
Yes, I totally agree. We're quite a, even though we are all, many of us are all competitors, and it's a race to the top, and we are an extremely cooperative industry. There is a lot of information sharing because we all rely on each other in this industry. The supply chain issues are proving that out right now. We can't fix our supply chain unless everyone can start making parts again. And
Right.
and I think the same goes for knowledge. We really can't move ahead unless we are able to borrow some knowledge from over here and from over there and collaborate and then find ways to use that knowledge in unique ways. But it all starts with knowledge, and there's going to be plenty of knowledge sharing coming up in just several weeks in Minneapolis. So Martin,
Yeah.
I'll let you go. I know you have lunch right below the camera angle here. So
I'm not going to show it. I'm not going to show.
no, that's I saw it. Yeah, you're right. That's probably a good move.
I have an
But
apple here. I can show you my apple, like
All
any good teacher should have.
all teachers should have an apple, right? Of course, that came from your students. So, Martin, have a good rest of the day. Thanks. I'm going to look forward to seeing you, in a few days at the Cleaning and Coding Conference, and then again a few weeks later at the Surface Mount Technology International Show. So, thanks for joining us. Go on and teach.
Thank you, Mike. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, same here. So let's bring in Tanya on this conversation. Tanya, while SMTA was able to effectively transition into a virtual model last year, 2020, when it came to technical programs, coming up with a virtual exhibition floor is a little bit more challenging than a technical program, and I think we experienced that. The return of live events is the return of a live show floor, complete with exhibitors showing off their latest products and services, something that's obviously difficult to do when we're scaling down to pixels on a screen. Let's start with what's new this year at SMTA. I know we're co-locating, so Tanya, what's new this year? What is exciting this year besides the fact that we actually get to see people in real life? What's going on at SMTA?
I think the biggest thing is the change of location. We've been in Dallas, we've been in Florida, and for a number of years we were in Rosemont, Illinois. And this will be our first year ever bringing SMTA International to Minneapolis. So that's exciting to have that in the backyard of headquarters. I guess, as you mentioned, the co-location with the MD&M show. There's actually 5 different shows within that show. In working with the organizers, they do a lot of robotics, automation, a lot of different aspects of the manufacturing world, but not so much in the electronics manufacturing and assembly. So it was a great gap that we could bridge, and we're both excited to bring the full-scale manufacturing show to the Midwest.
Yeah, excellent. And MD&M, for those that don't know, stands for?
The Medical Design and Manufacturing Show. It is it is the largest manufacturing show in the Midwest.
Yeah, and the electronics industry is well known for its involvement in the medical electronics world. All high reliability. It seems like a really good fit. I know that the last time MD&M happened, I don't think it happened last year, but maybe the year before, there was quite a good turnout. How many attendees did they draw the last time they had a physical event?
Yeah, in 2019 they actualized just over 4,600 attendees. So that's a good number. It's great to be able to pair that with the SMT International.
Yeah, so this could very well be the largest SMTAI when we consider the fact of the square footage of the venue and the number of expected attendees and the total number of exhibitors. This is going to kind of be one for the record books, I would imagine.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping, right? Is to really lean on each other to come full circle with the manufacturing as well as bring in the draw of attendees. Right now we are up over that 3,000 mark for pre-registered attendees, so we're trucking along.
Very good, considering it's one of the first major shows to make a return, if not the first major show to make a return. Those are pretty good numbers. So one of the intangibles that live trade shows offers is the ability for networking. And I've met just as many future customers standing in an aisle as I have standing in a booth. I don't think that's one of the taglines you want to use to sell booths, but it's a fact that there is so much advantage to being where your customers are, being where your vendors are. We might run into someone that maybe we were thinking about, but we really didn't take the initiative to pick up the phone, or they didn't take the initiative to pick up the phone to call you. But now you're there, and conversations happen, and things result from those conversations that happened. It's a great opportunity just being there, if not standing in a booth representing a company. I'm sure as the executive director of SMTA, you get a lot of feedback, you get a lot of requests and comments, criticisms, whatever the case may be. What do you hear from your members about doing a live show, and what is your take on networking?
I think over the last 18 months, we've all learned that how much we've missed networking and the importance of networking and being face-to-face. I would say the great majority of people that we are working with are excited to be back doing events in person. I think SMTA is well known for our calendar of events in all different regions throughout the North America and the globe. We've been fortunate enough to already have a few face-to-face events under our belt, as well as one conference in Dallas. It's been a learning experience. We've had to be flexible. We've had to change a few things here or there, but for the most part, everyone's really excited about it. Just doing things responsibly and navigating the situation in the best interest of everybody in the best way we can.
Yeah, great. So trade shows are known for the trade show floor, the exhibition floor is known for the products that are on the show floor, technical conference, special events, things like that. Tell me more about the special events that are going to be at SMTAI this year.
Sure. Yeah, we've got a couple, events that everyone's welcome to, that are in conjunction with the conference, but aren't part of the paid registration. Everyone's free to go. One of the things that we have is the Women's Leadership Program that we've had for about a decade now. This should be a really fun change up that we've done. We've got a couple different presentations from 3M and the Mayo Clinic, as well as an hour-long guided session of the mechanics, as well as implementation of a meditation session. So that would be fun. And that's followed by roundtable discussions on technical and soft skills, and ending with a fun wine and ice cream social. So we invite all of you to join us. And the wine and ice cream is after the technical conference ends. So we hope to see everybody there.
Did you say wine and ice cream?
Yeah.
Okay.
Life's too
We're in.
best thing. Yeah, right? But yeah, we also have a keynote session, and I think it's pretty exciting. Greg might be talking about this a little bit more, but it is on EV adoption, the electrification of vehicles. I think our industry as a general, at least in the domestic industry, are just starting to dip our toe a little bit more and start to get more information on that and how it's going to affect us in our industry down the road. And on the show floor, we also have a full program for students and young professionals. And everything can be found on our website, but it's it's an opportunity for young professionals to come together, ask the questions they want to ask, get some of the more foundational training and presentations, as well as get to meet other industry veterans, as well as other young professionals.
Excellent. And finally,
and just
yes,
to
Greg.
add to that, Mike, the conference is just a wonderful opportunity. You talk about exhibitor to attendee connections, but just the connections amongst peers in the industry as you're walking around the show floor have been very valuable over the year. To see Mike and to catch up what's going on with him and his company and what things they're working on, what challenges they're having that they're at the show, finding information out about, and just to have that opportunity to catch up. And you can see those equipment vendors that you're familiar with, but you also have the opportunity to walk the show floor, which was very difficult online, to see what's new, to see what's developed, to just catch your eye as you're walking by. So that I know I'm looking forward to with the exposition.
Yeah, as am I. It's been a long time. Well, it's been a year and a half, but it just seems like it's been 10 years, right?
Exactly.
It's like dog years, staring at a screen, looking at little pixels. It's like dog years. This reminds me of these, late night commercials. But wait, there's more, right? And so, Tanya, but wait, there's more. There's an opportunity if someone cannot attend the show. And we realize that there are some people whose companies will not allow them to travel quite yet, or for whatever scheduling reasons they can't actually be there physically. There is an opportunity to not miss out. Tell me about the virtual component of this of SMTA.
That's right. There is one. For whatever reasons, if people are not able to join us in person, we will have a virtual on-demand aspect to it. That will launch on November 15th, where all the technical presentations will be available to anybody for on-demand playback. We recognize all the hard work, the time, the resources, and the dedication that goes into the research and writing the paper and doing the presentation. And this allows the authors and the speakers the opportunity for their work to go a little bit farther and the reach to grow.
Yeah, that's great. So will people who attend the show and register for the conference also be able to see the virtual conference?
Yeah,
or is that a separate registration?
No, it's not. It is a separate registration in the fact that you can only sign up for the on-demand virtual aspect. But if you register for the in-person event, you'll also have access to all the presentations on demand. So those will be available through the end of 2021.
Okay, excellent. Let's talk a little bit, kind of change the theme a little bit from the general show floor and ice cream and wine to a little less, but probably more important, a little less interesting, but more important subjects about the technical program.
Sure. We have two big buckets of technical programs. We have professional development courses, and we have about 15 of them scheduled. And then we also have our main technical conference, which has this year 9 technical tracks. And we have approximately 130 total papers, 90 of which right now are scheduled to be in person. And the other 40 will be presented on demand. The entire conference will be on demand in presentation form starting November the 15th until the end of the year. And with 2 exceptions, the tracks will be very familiar to previous SMTA international attendees. And I can talk about that a little bit.
Sure.
We also have some track directors currently working to create some panel discussions and roundtable discussions that'll be integrated into the program, into the various tracks in the program.
Greg and Rayo, both of you were involved with the technical program. Rayo, you're the director of the conference. You're attending the show. You're part of the show, both from a board of directors standpoint or a director of the conference standpoint, and you're both working for companies. Greg, you work for Rockwell Automation. Dr. Rayo, you work for Intel. So as both part of the show and as a person, an attendee representing a company, what is your take on the technical program this year? First of all, let me just backtrack a little bit. I was really impressed at the number of professional development courses and technical programs that are happening live, not to mention virtually, but just live is an impressive number for any show in a normal time. The fact that your team was able to put together this rich technical conference with a variety of different subject matter and a variety of subject matter experts is quite impressive, particularly through the lens of COVID-19. So kudos to your whole team for putting that together. It's quite impressive.
Yeah, because this is the second year that we had to plan for both an in-person and an on-demand. And there was always this specter of everything could collapse on us, and then we'd have to fall back to a virtual on-demand only. We had to go through this last year. We thought things would be better this year. We figured, well, we learned a lot last year, so we'll be able to fix whatever we can this year. And it turned out this year had a different situation. The outlook's really good now, but this is only a month before the conference. But people made commitments to come to this conference, which is why it's kind of remarkable we have this many commitments to give presentations and papers. But people had to make these commitments a long time ago. And the way things are now, that is 4 or 5 months ago was a long time ago. And they had to commit to do either in person or virtual. If we submit something that could be shown on demand. And in the interim here, we had this other panic point with Delta variant, and that doesn't seem to have deterred people. And I mentioned that we have all these tracks and all these 90 in-person presentations. This level of presentation and participation is about the same as what it was in 2018 and 2019. So this is really encouraging because people think about COVID restricting travel, but it also stopped a lot of work from getting done last year because of lockouts. And that means, we're going to be seeing some results this year that was disrupted last year. People are sticking with it. They're continuing it, starting it up again, finishing it, and presenting it this year. So this is really an encouraging thing, because many of the authors that aren't going to be coming, that only will be doing things on demand, had to make that decision a long time ago. Most of them would prefer to travel, but they couldn't for various reasons. So they said, well, I'm not going to do it in person. And some of these were longtime participants that would have preferred to do it. So, the in-person numbers actually could have been larger than what we had. And, our track directors and committees should get a lot of credit for pulling in this many good quality papers. And headquarters has been working to publicize the conference and keep it going. And this may sound like business as usual, but really nothing has been usual. When soliciting participation from people, the first question you ask is, are we really going to have a conference? And who knew 3 or 4 months ago? So to get around to answering a question about what can we really expect, and was it really a surprise? I think we really have to give a lot of credit to people that work on this conference for making it so everything came together. There weren't too many surprises that we at least couldn't deal with.
Let's talk a little bit about the technical program and or the professional development courses. What do you see there that really excites you from your vantage point through your lens as working with Rockwell and Intel? Whichever, Rayo or Greg, whoever wants to jump into the cold end of the deep pool, you're welcome to.
Yeah, well, SMTA International has always been a premier technical program in our industry. In over 100 different presentations covering the 6 different tracks. It is a fantastic opportunity to spend time exploring and understanding different issues that others are having in the industry, and that's the basis of what SMTA is built upon, is that peer network and peer sharing for everyone's benefit. And the papers present a wonderful opportunity to pick up on nuggets and to learn about others' approaches to solving problems that you otherwise would not get had you not attended the conference. So personally, we use it as Rockwell as an opportunity to do information searching and bring it back to our teams, what's developing on various topics from a new product perspective, new process, as well as failure analysis. So we always use it to take our notes, come back, discuss it as a team, and figure out what needs to be added to our roadmap.
Yes, I can talk a little bit about the professional development courses, Mike. There are 21 professional development courses. Each of these are about half day long, 3.5 hours. 14 of these courses will be presented in person, as you mentioned, Mike. That's a large percentage. And during the conference in the first week of November, and the rest will be during the virtual conference later. These courses feature a depth of instruction, and they are given in a classroom type of environment, not like a presentation. I mean, you have the instructor talking, and the students can, interrupt him and ask questions if they have some clarification needed on what is being presented. So it's that sort of a give and take environment. They are also the teachers are, internationally respected professionals, and each of them has extensive experiences and publications too in the field, in the subject matter that they cover. Majority of these courses, as is to be expected in a technical conference, are technical in nature, and it's areas of electronic assembly, obviously. They range from package and PCB design and materials to various aspects of surface mount technology and process such as reflow, cleaning, in your case, Mike, as you know, and then reliability of the second level solder joint. A couple of courses are also focused on the recent burgeoning field of the low temperature solders. There are also, besides the technical, there are also courses on the economics of the assembly process and topics such as reducing manufacturing cost, I think improving profitability. Also, there are a couple of courses, one on statistics and one on leadership. So it covers a gamut of areas, not just only technical. As far as what Intel looks for in SMTA, now Intel is not an OEM or ODM or somebody EMS. It's we have components that are leading state of the art, very high density, large form factors that need to be assembled on motherboards for PCs and servers, and they need to be compatible with whatever process is there in the industry. High volume they need to be you don't want to slow down the beat rate and things like that because of these high density components. So what Intel looks for is any new assembly technologies that can help in successfully enabling these large, dense area array components, which the CPUs and other critical devices in computers are packaged in. And they need to be assembled, something that will help in assembling these with high yields and acceptable reliability. So that is one aspect that Intel engineers, when they attend SMTA, look for. The second aspect from Intel's perspective is to influence and urge the industry in certain aspects of the board assembly process that are critical to Intel's CPU packaging roadmap. It may not be across the industry, but Intel has its own roadmap, and they tend to be a little bit divergent from the other people in the industry, and therefore they may require something that is not readily available or readily apparent to the people developing new solders and new materials and new processes. And so the one example is, of course, low temperature solder development, which Intel was doing recently, and Intel drove it within the industry because they needed it for their next generation packages that warp a lot. If you still use the silver copper, the SAC solder to go to very high temperatures, the packages warp and you get assembly yield issues. So that's one of the reasons Intel is driving the low temperature solders. And we usually give presentations of what is needed, why it's needed, and the call to action for the industry. And that's what we use SMTA for. In 2019, as Tanya knows, we sponsored a low temperature solder symposium just before the general conference, just to do exactly what I just said.
Yeah, it seems like I know recently on this show, on Reliability Matters, we've started talking a little bit more about low temperature solders than we have before. And it's definitely one of those leading edge technological subjects.
Well, it is
subjects.
Suspect,
Some might say suspect. Some might say suspect. Yeah, but definitely it is a is a conventional, very conventional, leading edge subject, not
Correct.
suspect. And it's definitely going to get a lot more traction probably at the show and others as
Yes.
the benefit of low temperature solder and its pros and cons, quite frankly, come out and people understand what it is that they're looking for and what problems they're trying to solve and how to mitigate any other issues that may come up as a result of it. Are there any other topics, general topics, or even maybe specific presentations that come to mind as kind of, can't miss TV kind of thing, where, it's exciting or interesting or provocative or controversial or anything like that?
Well, there are a few that I have a strong interest in for a couple of reasons, not just technical, but also because what's been happening with them. The APT track, the Advanced Packaging Technology track, has 4 very strong sessions this year due to the hard work of the track members, and which is being led by Bert Carpenter and Andrew Moore of NXP. And they're probably going to have a panel discussion as part of one of their APT tracks as well. I would like to say something about the inspection track. We didn't have one last year. So it's a testament to how things are coming back that we now have 2 sessions in the conference this year. MFX is still has always been traditionally strong, and that has 6 sessions. We are doing something very different this year with the Lead-Free Symposium. We've had a Lead-Free Symposium for many years. It typically occupied 4 sessions on Thursday, the last day of SMTA. But this year we had a record number of submissions in this area, largely a result of the topic you mentioned earlier, low temperature solder. And because of that, we kind of broke this up into 2 pieces this year. The low temperature solder has actually 5 sessions. So it already has more sessions than what our traditional lead-free would have in the past. And it's an emerging technology, and it's really a topic of high interest. And then the second piece of it, we're calling, at least this year, second level interconnect reliability. And we have 5 sessions of that. So you can see each one of those is larger than what we had previously for lead-free. And we had to break these out separately for a couple of reasons. Even though they're both lead-free, they're so different that the audiences that might come to them could be very different. But in both cases, there's a really large R&D component to the work being presented here. We're not sure if that second level interconnect reliability tag will be permanent. We'll review that in the future, but it was really encouraging to see this much work coming out in this area.
I think there's a track. The technical innovation track has quite a few presentations on the use of liquid metals for thermal conduction within packages and board assemblies. That piques my interest because that's also of importance to packaging Intel CPUs, which run hot, and power generation is a big factor now with the integration going on, the heterogeneous integration that's going on within the silicon die. So that's something that piques my interest. There is also some paper on the current stressing of solder joints like electromigration, which is typically covered in the literature more in the academic field, but now it's coming out more towards the commercial manufacturing because it might affect some of the solder joints, especially with the high power components. So that's another thing that interests me. Use of polymeric reinforcement to enhance solder joint reliability is another, which is not a new subject, but how that polymeric reinforcement is being put around the solder joints, that is changing. Some people are using the resin in the paste. Some people are applying resin to the balls before placing the component BGAs down on the board, and then forming the polymeric reinforcement individually around the joints, as opposed to underfill sort of a method. So, and there are some papers on that too. So those are some of the other areas that interest me. There's also areas of high reliability solder materials as opposed to low temperature, high reliability, much better than SAC, especially in the automotive field. And there are some papers on that too.
Excellent. I always chuckle when I hear the term high reliability solder because it makes me wonder what the other materials are. You know, no one says, excuse me, would you like high reliability, medium reliability, or low reliability solder?
Right.
Although that might be what they're getting, but they never really advertise it that way. So one of my favorite parts of a conference is the keynote presentation. Sometimes there's one, sometimes there's more than one. But this particular keynote, I'm really excited to hear because it's a subject that I just find completely fascinating. I'm a geek when it comes to the electrification of cars and autonomous vehicles, and that whole subject matter I find incredibly exciting. It reminds me when I was a boy looking through the pages of Popular Science and Popular Mechanics. We were promised this technology by the year 2000. Everything was based on the year, I was born in 1960. So, everything was based on the year 2000. We'll have flying cars and we'll be living on Mars and all this stuff. And, much of it came true. Much of it did not come true. But I feel like they owe me, they owe me some of that self-driving promises that were made back in the day. Mm-hmm. And now we get to hear all about the revolution of electric cars. In this industry, we have two things. We have revolution, we have evolution. And almost all of it these days is evolution because we're not coming up with too many new things. We're just coming up with faster, cheaper, smaller versions of what we came out with in the 60s, basically. So, but I think when it comes to transportation, there really is a revolution. We have not really had self-driving cars the way we're talking about having self-driving cars. So to me, it's a complete revolution, and revolutions don't come very often. So the fact that we realize we're in the middle of one is, to me, exceptionally exciting. Tell me more about the keynote speaker, and the presentation, if you would. I think, Greg, you were going to talk about that, but I don't want to limit it just to Greg.
Yeah. Lauren McDonald, he's the CEO of EV Adoption, and they do. He's involved with doing market research in the EV field and in the vehicles, as well as the whole support structure around it for charging stations and things of that nature. Just to share with us how, as this industry explodes, how it's going to drive so many different aspects of our daily lives. So we're really looking forward to gathering his insights and understanding how they could impact our daily lives and our businesses, right? The whole automotive market and the explosion of sensors and the 5G technology and the talking of autonomous vehicles and their communication is just going to, create a great amount of opportunity for the electronic manufacturing space. And I'm anxious to hear how that is going to be bigger than you could even imagine, I guess. And that's as we've taken, and I've been part of different technical presentations on automotives and the explosion of sensors. It just blows my mind how that has increased and all the network behind it and to support this industry going forward.
Yeah. And when it comes to the automation of cars, whether they're autonomous cars or not, that is all a combination of harsh environment and high reliability application. The electronics in cars have gone from infotainment, intermittent windshield wipers, seat massagers, whatever, things that could fail and we would still be relatively safe, to ADAS systems and other technologies that we now rely on to drive and to keep us safe. And just to see the responsibility of the auto manufacturers, stepping up to build high reliability electronics that go into harsh environments and are subjected to all the stupid human tricks that people do, and expose their electronics to, is quite a challenge. And it is definitely creating challenges and opportunities to solve those challenges for our industry. And I'm really looking forward to hearing that presentation and getting a little deeper. So to kind of wrap up, several opportunities at the show. One is, of course, show itself, the exhibition floor, and all of the exhibitors that will be there, both on the SMTA I side of the building and on the MDM side of the building. There's a great common denominator between those two groups. They are separate groups, but they have a lot in common in terms of their use of electronics within their manufacturing capabilities. And then we have the professional development courses. I think there's about 15 courses or so. I might be a little off on those numbers, but there's a lot of PDCs that are going to be offered, which is the deep dive down the rabbit hole. Not typical, not like a typical 25-minute technical presentation. This is 3.5 hours, and you can go pretty deep in 3.5 hours if you want to go down that road. And then all of the technical papers that will be presented with 5 or 6 tracks, I think is going to be quite exciting. And as Dr. Rayo pointed out, not all of it is technical. There are some presentations that are kind of a higher level that will help engineers and others, with their career choices and their path, their journey. And then the special events, the women's group, Women's Leadership Forum, and the young students. And I think those are going to be great. I think the emphasis, of course, on the wine and ice cream, which is unique to the women's group, and all are welcome. I'll be part of it. I'm looking forward to that. And I know that they plan not just some speakers for that group, but a round table, kind of like speed dating with different subjects. So I'm privileged to be part of that, and I'm working with a terrific group of talented people in that group. So any as we wrap up, any miscellaneous loose end comments that we should talk to our audience about relative to SMTAI or the return of live events in general? Sounds like we've pretty well put a bow on it, right? Excellent. Okay.
We're excited that we can bring a live event together, and yet, as we mentioned, supported virtually, recognizing it's a big world that we live in, and there's obviously different pressures that the pandemic has put on different regions of the world. So you can participate in whatever capacity that you can.
Wonderful. Well, I'd like to thank you all. We'll start off thanking Martin. He's not with us at this moment, but we talked to him just a few minutes ago. Tanya, Greg, Richard, Rayo, thank you so much for all the work you've done to produce this show. Doesn't come easy, and I know that there's a lot of behind the scenes horse trading going on, and coercing and inviting and suggesting. So I appreciate all the work you guys do to put on this event, particularly the first one in these new days that's live. I'm sure that presented some challenges, but I'm looking forward to a very successful show, not just for the time we're in, but I think this show is going to be successful regardless of what time period we rate the show in. I think I think there's a big desire to get back to the real world and get back to normal, and this is a great first step to do that. So I look forward to seeing all of you, not on my screens, but in real life, to see what you're really like. All I see is this much of you normally, so I'm anxious to see the rest of you in Minneapolis. And Tanya promises that it's going to be about 78 degrees that particular week in November in Minneapolis. Am I right? Oh, can't hear. Perfect timing. Yeah. See, that's why she's executive director, right? She knows exactly when to cut the mic. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I look forward to seeing you very soon, November 1st through 4th, Minneapolis.
Thank you, Mike.
Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening or watching the Reliability Matters podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast app, such as Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and so many more. Also, be sure to check out my other podcasts, including the Concept to Creation podcast, where I feature conversations with entrepreneurs within the electronic assembly space, and the Innovations in Technology podcast, where we discuss innovative products within our industry. All three shows are also available in video format. Check out the Reliability Matters or Concept to Creation or Innovations in Technology podcasts on YouTube. Just search the show's name and you can find all three shows. Or go to MikeConrad.com. That's Conrad with a K. All three shows also appear there. Again, thanks for being part of my podcast family. I appreciate you being here. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay happy. And of course, keep doing it right. See you again soon.
Thanks for listening to the Reliability Matters podcast. Join us on the second and fourth Tuesday of each month for new episodes of Reliability Matters.